The rain fell like needles that night, sharp and endless, painting the city in silver in sorrow. The world outside the tall glass towers of the Harrington Empire looked small and broken, cars splashing through puddles, people hurrying with umbrellas, their faces hidden, their hearts probably just as cold as the wind that whipped through the streets. But high above it all, in an office that reeked of wealth and loneliness, sat Veronica Harrington, the woman everyone feared to cross. Her name alone could freeze meetings, break careers, and silence even the boldest voices. She was known as the rudest billionaire in town, heartless, arrogant, and untouchable. Some called her the Ice Queen. Others, more quietly, called her cursed. If you believe in kindness, redemption, and second chances, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to channel name, because this story might just remind you that even the coldest hearts can learn to feel again. Veronica sat by her desk that evening, staring blankly at the city lights below. Reports and emails flashed across her laptop screen, but her eyes didn't move. She didn't need to read them. She already knew what they said: profits up, competitors crushed, employees terrified but obedient. Everything was perfect. Everything except the silence that came afterward. Her assistant had quit that morning, crying as she walked out. The driver hadn't shown up for 3 days. The last man who had tried to date her had left after one dinner, saying he couldn't breathe around her. And maybe he was right. Maybe Veronica had stopped being someone people could breathe around years ago. They said she'd become this way after her father's death, the man who built the empire she now ruled like a fortress. But no one really knew the full story. No one dared ask. Power, money, control, she had them all. But somewhere beneath the surface of her perfect image was a woman who'd forgotten how to smile, how to forgive, and how to love. The next morning, a storm of a different kind arrived, not the kind that drenched the city, but one that shook Veronica's polished, icy world. Her company's flagship community project, a charity initiative that looked good for her image, was behind schedule. The construction site manager had quit, the budget was in chaos, and the new replacement had just walked in to meet her. His name was Daniel Hayes. He wasn't what she expected. No expensive suit, no polished shoes, no nervous trembling. Just a man in his late 30s, tall but calm, with worn-out jeans and a tired face that somehow looked peaceful. His eyes were steady, the kind that told you he'd been through worse storms than a rude billionaire's wrath. He was a single father, raising a 6-year-old daughter named Lily, and he needed this job more than anything. But he didn't act desperate. He didn't bow. He didn't flatter. Veronica had built her life on dominance, and Daniel's quiet confidence was like a mirror she didn't want to look into. When she spoke sharply, he didn't flinch. When she threatened deadlines, he didn't rush to apologize. He just nodded, as if her fury was just another kind of weather, something to be endured, not feared. For the first time in years, someone didn't crumble under her gaze. It unsettled her more than she'd admit. Days turned into weeks, and Daniel's presence began to disturb the rhythm of her perfectly controlled world. He worked hard, stayed late, and treated everyone, even the janitors, with respect. People started smiling again in the office. The air felt lighter, warmer. Veronica noticed, though she refused to show it. She'd watch him through the glass, working quietly, sometimes with his little girl waiting on a chair nearby, drawing pictures while her father typed reports. There was something in that, the smallness of it, the purity, that cracked the walls around her heart just a little. One evening, when the storm outside was especially cruel, Veronica was leaving her office when she saw Lily sitting alone in the lobby, clutching a stuffed rabbit. Daniel had gone upstairs to fix a late issue, and the little girl had fallen asleep on the couch. The sight froze her. For a moment, the ruthless CEO vanished, replaced by a woman who remembered a younger version of herself waiting in the same way, small, forgotten, sitting in an office corner while her father chased deals and deadlines. Her eyes softened, and without thinking, she took off her coat and gently laid it over the sleeping child. Daniel saw it from the elevator door, his steps pausing midway. Their eyes met, his surprised, hers unreadable, and something shifted in that silence. He didn't thank her, and she didn't speak. But the gesture lingered in the air like a whisper of something human that neither of them could deny. As the days passed, the ice began to melt in ways even Veronica didn't understand. She found herself asking about the workers' welfare, approving budget increases for safety equipment, and even showing up on site not to intimidate, but to watch. Daniel's influence wasn't loud, but it was powerful. He led by example, with patience and compassion that made others follow willingly. Slowly, she started to see what true leadership looked like: not fear, but respect; not commands, but connection. One afternoon, she overheard Daniel on a phone call, quiet, tense. His daughter's school had called, Lily had fallen ill. Without hesitation, he dropped everything and rushed out. For reasons she couldn't explain, Veronica followed. She found them in a small clinic across town, Daniel sitting by Lily's bedside, holding her tiny hand, whispering softly until the fever broke. The sight made something in Veronica ache. She hadn't held anyone's hand in years, not out of love, not out of comfort. Watching Daniel's tenderness stirred memories of her own father's rare, quiet warmth, long buried under ambition. Later, as they stood outside the clinic, the rain began to fall again. Daniel turned to her and said simply, "You don't have to be who they say you are, you know." His tone wasn't accusing, just sincere, like someone offering light to someone lost in darkness. She didn't reply, but the words hid deeper than she wanted them to. The next morning, the woman the world knew as the Rudest Billionaire did something no one expected. She called for a meeting, not to reprimand, but to listen. She apologized to her staff for the way she had treated them. Her voice shook, not from weakness, but from truth. People stared in disbelief. But slowly, applause broke out. Daniel stood in the back, smiling faintly, as if he'd known all along that somewhere beneath her armor was a heart still capable of change. Weeks later, the charity project finally opened a home for single parents and children in need. Veronica stood at the ribbon cutting, her eyes shining not with pride, but peace. Lily handed her a small drawing she'd made. It showed 3 stick figures holding hands under a bright sun. Veronica smiled, truly smiled, for the first time in years. That night, as she stood on her balcony, watching the city lights flicker like distant stars, she realized something profound: power had never made her strong. Love had. Kindness had. The courage to care, even after years of loneliness, had. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to channel name, and let us know in the comments if you believe everyone deserves a second chance, no matter how lost they once were. Speech balloon special request to comment. Tell us below, do you believe one kind soul can truly change another? Your words might inspire someone who needs to hear them today.